coming up next on Nitro is Sabu beating Mr. JL. Now, Mr. JL is the real life Jerry Lynn. Considering what you're going to do with the cruiserweight division, I can't help but wonder, why didn't you see long-term value in Jerry Lynn? Did he have something else going on? Or, I mean, it feels like he would have been such a natural fit with guys like Chris Jericho and Eddie Guerrero and Dean Malenko. And I can't help but think how his career may have looked a lot differently. We know he enjoyed great success with ECW, but he would have been a much bigger national star. I feel like if he had that WCW platform, why wasn't he here long-term?
I do not know, to be honest. It is curious. I mean, he's a Minnesota guy.
Yeah.
Which is probably how he ended up there in the first place. Because I had a soft spot in my heart and because the talent coming out of Minnesota was actually pretty good. So, and I knew who he was. I was aware of him. He didn't come in cold. So I'm not sure why he didn't stick around. I don't know if I don't think there were contractual issues. Perhaps there were. I wasn't aware of them. I don't think there were injury issues, but could be wrong about that. Or wrong, right guy at the wrong time, which is pretty likely.
He's here through some of 97, but it feels like he winds up working a lot of syndicated shows and WCW Saturday Night. I just can't help but think, man, he would have had some absolute bangers with some of those luchadors. And we know what a great match he had almost on repeat.
Yeah, because that's Kevin Sullivan booking there.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't have been booking that level, not to be disrespectful, but I was really only focused on, the top and maybe what's just below the top of the card. In terms of day-to-day creative. So I don't know what the read was, but it was a Kevin call ultimately.
Let's talk about his opponent that night, Sabu. You made a big push for him. There was a promo for him that aired on the very first Nitro. He was on the second Nitro. He's only here for a few months. The rumor and innuendo was he was here just on a per appearance deal. And then I guess there's been different versions of the story that when he got a contract offer, it was for that same kind of lowball per appearance deal. Was Sabu someone that was on your radar? And do you think that perhaps these are two guys that in the boom era of Nitro that was still to come, because we're 30 years ago in 1995. But when you think about 96, 97, 98, it feels like those two guys could have been major players for you.
I didn't trust Sabu.
Okay.
Simple as that. It wasn't about his work. It wasn't about his character. He had a reputation. I was well aware of him. I had watched some of his stuff. And by the way, Kevin Sullivan talked me into this one. This was not me going, wow, I can't wait to get my hands on Sabu. It was the opposite of that. Like, I wasn't dead set against it, but there was some selling going on. So it definitely was a Kevin call. In terms of the offer, I've read the same thing, so my bias is kind of leans towards what I read, which is he got a low ball offer, he didn't like it, was offended and left, is what I remember. What I remember reading. I actually don't even remember the incident, but I do remember reading about it.
Hey, so the rest of Nitro I want to run through here. Sting's going to come out to the ring with Lex Luger. They're going to call out Randy Savage. You start to see some, I don't know, maybe clues that Lex is not on the same page with Sting. They're sort of shouting at each other a little bit here. It almost feels like we're teasing a Sting turn because Sting is going to call Lex pathetic and not the total package. I don't think you're teetering on that idea of turning Sting heel, but it is interesting verbiage. I know you guys weren't necessarily scripting the verbiage, but just to be clear, in 95, there was no discussion of maybe turning Sting heel, right?
No.
Yeah.
This was really the baby faces trying to find their edge.
Okay.
I've talked to you about this before on the show. One of the concerns early on, like very, very early on, when the NWO, like 2 weeks after it was formed, right? The logo came out, the black and white videos came out. Right about that time, I remember Sting coming to me and he pulled me aside and he said, I don't know what to do. I said, what do you mean you don't know what to do? He goes, what we're doing here. The heels, getting cheered. That's cool and all, but as a babyface, it's kind of getting awkward because it's not the formula. It's reverse psychology in a way, right? It's the opposite of what you work and train and develop the skill to get the audience to do what you want them to do when you want them to do it. And now all of a sudden that electrical current has been completely reversed. So I think it was Lex and Randy to a degree as well. Certainly Sting trying to find that edge because that milquetoast stuff was wearing off fast.
Backstage, we see Chris Benoit stepping out of a limo. I know that some people are just not Chris Benoit fans, and I get that given the way the end of his life happened and all that he did. But this is interesting with the benefit of hindsight because you're not giving this sort of backstage in a suit with a limo entrance opportunity for guys like Eddie Guerrero or guys like Dean Malenko. Were you able to identify something early on that made you think, hey, this guy's different? This guy, he's not going to be, quote unquote, just a cruiserweight. He is going to be next level. Did you see that back then?
I saw it initially. I mean, I was very excited about Chris. Keep in mind, my first exposure to Chris Benoit was in New Japan.
Right.
For over a course of a year or two. I had seen him multiple times on some of the big shows and immediately fit that cruiserweight kind of rough idea, right? I liked that style. I liked the pace of those matches. It was different than the pace of everything else that you would see on our show. And that's exactly what I was looking for. So that's why I brought Chris over with Eddie and Dean. They came over as a package, and they were there to negotiate as a package because we negotiated right in front of each other. They all got the same deal. So I saw a lot in Chris, but this push where Chris is going now that we're discussing, that's Kevin Sullivan. It's what Kevin saw in Chris. And obviously look at, kind of protracted story that they developed for each other that got really crazy.
Yeah.
SaveWithConrad.com.
My name's Daryl. Came from Massachusetts and I moved to Wisconsin. And there's a lot of people that might be asking, why go with Conrad? Why go with Supreme Lending? And let me tell you something, brother. I think about the credentials, the tag team partner that I'd be working with. First of all, we got the podfather himself, Conrad. How can you go wrong with that? And then also go on to SaveWithEric.com, which, who else could have kicked Vince's ass for 83 consecutive weeks? You can't beat that duo right there. But they did bring a secret weapon, and I didn't realize this because this was not advertised. I worked closely with Larry the Axe Thompson. And let me tell you, with all the stress with moving across the country with a large family that I have, it was reassuring to know that I had the enforcer at my back, handling questions from the other side of sellers, the other side with trying to find the right prices. He took care of all that. All I had to do was keep my eye on the prize and make it there to Wisconsin. They were absolutely fantastic. They checked in on me, especially Francis, very patient with me. I don't go through this process all the time, so I trusted the experts. I was able to call them. They called me if they had questions, and it felt like it was a personal arrangement. There was even a point in which, from the seller side, they wanted something else that wasn't part of the norm. Francis straight up told me, hey, we're loyal to you. We'll do whatever you want to do, and we'll make sure that you guys are taken care of. They came through. I made it to the dream. I'm the champion of my own destiny here. They were able to help pave the way for me and my family. I couldn't be more happy with the results. I went from having less than an acre to now 20 acres worth of land. They made that dream a reality. I'm Daryl, and I'm living in Friendship, Wisconsin, in my dream home, thanks to SaveWithConrad.com.
NMLS number 2129, Equal Housing Lender. SaveWithConrad.com.